thank you both for speaking with me today in regards to the film. The film was a really good time, and you both were excellent in it.
Oh,
So
thank you, thank you.
that's no
Thank you.
problem. So kind of to get started off, with this movie, it kind of has it's kind of like a variation of the Rashomon effect. We are seeing events that we've already seen from your character's perspective that, for a lot of it, we don't necessarily see because you're not introduced to episode 7 in the show. So, for you guys, what do you hope that people get from watching this? What new things do you hope people learn from it and get about your characters?
Hmm. So I just hope that they come in and they're able to get a more full view of this friendship that Nagi and Reo shared before coming to Blue Lock and their journey together leading up to when they first meet Isagi's Team Z and that match goes as it does. I feel like it just really hits home some of the later moments in the series and how impactful it is to these characters because they are really well written and that's what I can that's what I feel about all of the characters in this show. I feel like all of the characters could have their own spin-offs or movies to just really delve more into what their life is like and I just think that this is such a great film to get a bigger peek into Reo and Nagi's.
Yeah, I hope they make games in the future because everyone has their own favorite and they argue about
Mhm.
it, and I love it. Oh, I like my guy. No, this guy, he's gonna be this, he's gonna be that. I hope they also take away that even from Reo that like how much more likable I think he is in the film, where you might think, oh, he's just a rich kid, he's just riding Nagi's coattails in the show. He's like, no, he has his own dream that he's visualizing happening a certain way. And yeah, and he's going up against his parents' wishes. I mean, how many of us can relate to um, going against the grain and having our own dreams, especially in the arts world.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you'd mentioned I forgot to mention in my answer, but you'd said it was like recontextualizing a lot of the stuff from the first season. And I do want to let fans of the show who have seen the first season be rest assured that while it does retread some of those moments from the first season, it spends as little time as needed on that so that they can get to the new stuff. And even if it is a scene that maybe you're a little familiar with, it's completely changed the perspective of it. It's completely recontextualized it in a way that's very entertaining and definitely worth a watch.
Mhm. And then linking into that, because we do get to see some new scenes that weren't in the original show. Was there any scenes that stood out for you that really like highlighted what you've talked about? From what they get to learn about your characters.
Um, I'm sorry, what was the question? I was distracted
So
by my
no, that's
dogs
fine.
were licking my feet.
No. So what I was saying was like because we get to see new scenes and it does recontextualize and we get to learn more. Is there any scenes that stood out that kind of encapsulate that for you?
Oh yeah. Definitely some of the opening scenes really especially for Nagi because Nagi I feel like in the show they introduce him in Blue Lock and then they flash back and they introduce how he meets Reo and it's kind of in the contextualization of Reo meeting him and it's from Reo's perspective and I feel like the very first opening scene we get the very encapsulation of what makes Nagi who he is, and it just shows him wandering through the halls of his high school, kind of aimless, but almost like a ghost, just curious about those around him, kind of unsure about what it is that he wants to do aside from playing video games, and he's seeing all these people trying so hard to do things, but he just doesn't understand it. But he has a genuine curiosity about it as well. And so I feel like this movie is the first time we really get to see some of his original origins, aside from how he compares to Reo.
Yeah, I love how much more they showed of what they were up to before we bump into them in the show, and how much Reo was kicking Nagi in the butt to get him to do
Yeah,
this stuff, and that it's not like Reo's talented as well. He's not like just a fan, sitting front row. He's really good at this thing as well. But he's like, man, we could be the best in the world together. We could win the World Cup together. Come on, stop playing games. Let's go.
mhm. Also you learn that Nagi has a pet cactus named Choki. It's
Yeah.
really cute. It's not a plant. It's not like a decoration. It's his pet. He has a pet cactus.
Yeah, so kind of like, and speaking of Blue Lock in general, Blue Lock in general has like the general like concepts and ideas of similar to like a death game story where more the death is the
Yeah.
death of their dreams and everything like that can we see that
Yeah,
throughout
yeah.
the show. So especially because that's from as an outsider looking, that's quite hard to captivate. So, what did what ideas and things did you have to think about to bring those emotions to life in your voice acting?
I think for Nagi in particular, he's not quite so bothered about that element of it either, up until like the events of the latter half of the movie, to try and avoid spoilers. But I feel like Nagi, and this is probably an aspect of his ego, is that like he's done so much in his life where it just comes effortlessly. He's effortlessly good at video games. He's effortlessly good at soccer. So like to him, as far as his experience with the game is, he's played against these people who have tried their hardest for like such a long time, and he's just trouncing them super easily. So to him, he's just like, well, why are they even doing this blue lock thing? Like, obviously, like, or why should I waste my time with this blue lock thing when I just know I'm just gonna beat everyone anyway? Like, it's gonna just be wasting time that I could be playing video games anyway. And so I feel like finding his reasons for being there as it develops throughout the series and in the movie is something that he's still kind of like discovering about himself.
Yeah, and really tapping into those stakes. The stakes are high, and the cost is the worst possible. Like you said, it's the death of their dreams. And if you've ever had a dream or a goal, and to know that if it doesn't happen this way, it's never going to happen ever. It was just such the weight of that it was fun to explore and to tap into. And even it's even realistic. I mean, we were talking about earlier, like for Bryson to have his spot, or for you, Robert, even to have your job, for you having that spot. It's someone who isn't having that spot. Someone else's dreams aren't coming true because you're the star, or you're out in front, or you got the position. So it was so cool to see that this show really dives into that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyone could hate my real life job. I'm gonna be honest. But in regards to, because since going back to, because we are recovering stuff before, and I don't know necessarily the behind the scenes how the voice acting worked, but I assume that you recorded the new stuff after the show. So you kind of know where your characters are going throughout this movie. You kind of know where it's going to end. So how does that affect your approach to voicing the characters? Because in essence, you do know more than what the characters should know as you're even if you're voicing newer stuff, older stuff, but it's still new for you.
For me, it's very much just taking things as they're presented to me in the original performance and the original animation. Like you said, we do know more about where the story develops than the characters do in those moments. And I think it helps to just remember what the character was like in those earlier scenes of the series, and just try to recapture that as best we can. One of the things that I do love about this movie, for my performance at least, is that we do get to retread some old material where I feel like I can throw in some more nuances to his character, even from his early on character, because working on these anime dubs, we tend to work on them very fast. We get cast, and then like we're in the studio next day recording it and have no time to prepare too much, other than like if we happen to have time to catch the episode in subtitle before then. And so like sometimes you find things about the character that you really wish you could have incorporated earlier on, because there's like just certain nuances about them that you're like, oh man, I wish I had the chance to go back and add this element to Nagi in those first episodes he appeared. And I feel like I got really lucky with this movie in that I am able to incorporate those things. And even when we were going through scenes that have occurred in the show and retreading those, they would have pulled the original audio from it, but we said, you know what, it's animated a little bit differently. Let's try and like just recreate with all those extra nuances that we've added since then, and also make sure that it's keeping in line with what we originally gave as well, just for a more consistent viewing experience, but also a more, I feel, fulfilling experience as an actor and a more fulfilling experience as a viewer.
Yeah, it was more of a blessing to know more than the character this go around, where I could protect the character. I knew, certain scenarios, how they would react now versus when we're just kind of thrown in the deep end in this profession with, let's say the first time you see us, I'm carrying Nagi and we bump into team Z, right? And so, yeah, it's like, oh, how am I going to play? Is he pompous? Does he look down on people? Is he these things that we don't quite know yet? Or does he not want to be seen as a rich kid? All these elements that weren't quite sure of yet until we kind of truly get to flesh all this stuff out. So I actually preferred being able to kind of know where he was headed, so I can kind of protect him along the way.
Yeah, you definitely, when you see like the recontextualization stuff and going back, what I think is good about the film is that when you first meet your characters, it's when he's trying to spell the beans about how to beat Team Z, and it's kind of like a comedic scene. But then when you rewatch and he's carrying it, it has you see more of that brotherly love because you get to know his character more. That's like quite fascinating as a viewer to see. But kind of like because especially from Britain and Scottish perspective. We love our football here. So how much did you know about football or soccer before doing this project?
I knew the basic rules of football because I played when I was like 4 years old, and I was the kid on the field that was shying away from the ball. I would chase after the crowd, but like stay in the back of it because even though we had shin guards and everything, I was afraid of getting kicked in the legs. So I wasn't particularly good at it, but I'm generally familiar with the sport and the rules for it. I haven't really caught like a professional game or anything like that, but I've heard that there's a current tournament going on over there in Europe that I definitely need to
don't want to talk about that.
Oh no.
We got kicked out.
Oh no. Then I won't harp on any sore spots, but I definitely plan to try and check out a few games here and there, see if we can't root for the US and Japan.
Yeah, I just World Cup was probably about my extent of knowledge when the whole world is watching. You can't help but look. And so that's in representing your country, man. I'm always jealous when the Olympics come around because as a former athlete, I always wanted that. I always wanted that pressure. I wanted that stage to perform on. I think that's just so freaking cool. But I was bad at team sports. Maybe I had an ego in my own sense of I don't like other players telling me like player coaches telling me what to do who weren't that good at the sport. Like, so I stuck to like martial arts, swimming, track and field, things where I didn't have to listen to a group of guys or make sure that they're all working hard too.
Yeah. So, and linking into that football thing, is there any particular scene where your character's playing the sport that really stood out to you as whether it be impactful or just kind of badass, to be honest, because it is very badass on the football?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Kamen, did you want to take it first?
Oh, yeah. I don't think we see Reo make a shot or score a goal the entire first season, right? So we hear about how good he is. So it was so cool to actually get to see it in the film and see him take over games and command and lead a team and lead his high school team and things like that. So I don't know, he was just so much more likable. It was like Nagi wasn't a meal ticket. He's his brother, So it was so cool to explore that.
And then there's just like a lot of those moments for Nagi. I feel like Nagi has a lot of moments where he can just like show off how badass he is just effortlessly in the film. And then just like in those in the match against Team Z that they do showcase and recontextualize, there's a handful of spots where just the animation just goes super cool. The visuals are amazing. And what I love about that match as well is you may like see moments from the show that they've reanimated and it's almost like in the show they contextualize our team as the antagonists and Nagi and Reo as these antagonists. What I love about how they recontextualize it here is it's not just presenting it exactly the same with different dialogue, but like the way that they frame Isagi and Bachira and I think Chigiri's on their team at this point. I haven't watched the whole movie all the way through, so I can't remember who exactly is on the full team during this match at the time. I'm currently rewatching it because it's been a couple of years or about a year and a half. But like just showcasing these characters that we know from the series is, oh, these are the protagonists, we're rooting for them. And then it's like reframed as like, oh, those are the antagonists. We got to look after that guy. He's kind of crazy. Like, they're the final boss now. And so I just love moments like that they just really pop.
Yeah, and kind of just kind of to wrap this up, the whole thing about the show is about ego. It's about playing into that ego and hyping that up. Is there something about not just like yourself's ego? Is there something that you are proud, that you're like, I'm proud that I did this with this project? It kind of fulfills your own ego.
Yeah, I feel like every actor has some level of ego. I feel like you have to be like, I want to go be an actor and be on stage and be like center stage or be on a film and be like the leading man or something like that. There's always some level to that. I feel like I tend to try and suppress it as much as possible because I'm also, I just based off of my raising, I've also just become at least try to be as humble as possible and try to be grateful for the opportunities that I have. As I'm sure Kamen will tell you here in a bit, that like every role that we get cast in is a role that somebody else can't be cast in because there is only the one role. And some people can feel good about that, be like, yes, I beat everybody out. But I'm also kind of like, oh, well, I beat everybody out for the role, but I'm also just very grateful for the fact that the director chose to work with me and chose to do that. So I do feel like there's just an inherent level of ego with anybody in any creative field or any field of passion, be it art, sports, athleticism. You definitely want to put your best out there and showcase it and be like, look at me, I can do a cool thing, and I want you to like acknowledge that. But for me, it's been a lifelong balancing act of trying also not to come off as big headed and egotistical.
For me, I might be the opposite. I love to tap into the competitive nature of things. I grew up with a martial arts background, but I guess in the martial arts world, it's respectful to give your opponent everything you got. So when I step into an audition, you know, I want this so bad, and then stepping out of that, right? It's entering that and then training yourself, still working on it. Don't get me wrong, not a master of it, but how can I give it my all and then try to forget about it, move on my day, things like that. But in terms of the film, egotistically, that just really made me feel amazing was Act 3. Getting anytime you get a chance to explore a more emotional side of a character and show that you can go there. That was super rewarding. And then I guess more the ego side is being able to do it on an IP like Blue Lock, something that I hope everyone's going to see and it's going to be in theaters. Like like I said earlier, I want the ball in the fourth quarter. I want to take the game winning shot. I want to make the game winning kick. And this is definitely a bucket list role.
For sure. And then for me, I mean, I already answered, but just an addendum. It's been very ego satisfying to see two movies come out within like a month of each other. So, but also very, very gratefulness inducing. Like I couldn't be more like ecstatic and grateful that I've been given the opportunities that I have. But I do know at the back of my mind that like the only reason I've been given those opportunities is because I've proven myself as a performer and have made those opportunities happen to some extent as well. And I'm trying to do better about accepting that latter part.
But no, that was my last question. So thank you so much for speaking with me today. It was an absolute honor.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you again, Robert.
Good to see you again too. Right?
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Nice to meet you too, Kamen. Okay, thank you.